Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is December 7th. It's Thursday, and you are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And as you can see on the screen, if you can see it, we're talking about transforming images into motion and all the kind of new cool things that have come around to that. So that's sort of what we're focusing on today. And we had Carl. We lost Carl. Carl's back with a haircut. So today we got Junmi, Beth, Carl, Andy, and I'm Brian. And like I said, today in the intro, we're talking about sort of some of these newer tools. Some of them have been around for a while. It's not like this happened yesterday. There's been, this idea of taking an image and creating some sort of motion to it has been around for, I'm sure, beyond 2023. I've only really been messing around with it. But I mean, I was looking back at some runway stuff I created, and it was 8 months old. It was pretty rudimentary, but it was the first thing I tried to mess around on with is 8 months ago. And I'm sure it goes back earlier than that. So what we wanted to do is bring back up this topic because it just seemed like in the last couple of weeks, there's been some real good leaps. Some of the tools, and we'll go through some of them today and talk about, what we're currently using, I'll tell you where I think, some of these have value and can be used right away. But in painting and different things that you could do where you can now start to isolate and mask different parts of an image that you now want to have, motion to them. And then, I don't know, Jimmy, do you want to kind of kick things off with talking about Pika? Because we talked about this big announcement that Pika Labs came out with, I don't know, a week ago. Andy, you mentioned it on one of our AI shows. I think one of our news shows. They had a huge round of investment, if I'm not mistaken, like $50 million, something like that. And it's a really interesting story on how that company was built out. They started building sort of free and had some beta versions in Discord, like you have for Midjourney, and now they have basically a wait list. So I don't know, Jimmy, do you want to kind of kick things off maybe with that tool and what and I have a little to show I can share from a YouTube video that when I was researching it as well.
Sure. So like Midjourney, their primary interface currently, this is for pre-Pika 1.0, and that was the big announcement last week, is that they're releasing their full stable release. That's still on a wait list. Haven't gotten called up to the majors yet on that, but they do everything through Discord. It's a similar process, /create, and then you put in your prompt. Now, I did do a little bit of an output with the most simplest of prompts, and so I can bring that up really quick to show everyone where we are. And this is pre 1.0. All right, so let me pull that up here.
So just to be clear, this is what you were able to do through the Discord?
This is what I was able to do through the Discord. This was a simple prompt. This was like, make it 16 by 9, and I want to see a cliff diver. All right, Here we go. And so you're getting your standard artifacts and a little demorphing and things like that. So along those lines, I'd say it's pretty much what you're going to see in Runway and other tools like that. But I'm really excited to see what 1.0 is going to be like. And again, like I said, this is real simple. I did not spend hours trying to prompt engineer for the best thing. But this is what you can get for 5 seconds. If you're just doing it for 5 seconds, this is what you can get out of it. So I mean, I thought that was a pretty good effort. It does look like it's video. So the elements that it's chosen, we can see a little bit of movement on there. And just saying cliff diver gave it all of the inputs that it needed to know what the basic elements were.
Yeah, and I think just to sort of add to that, because that's kind of where we are right now, I pulled up this video and I just put it on 1.5. Now I do have the tab and the audio on, so everybody should be able to hear this hopefully. But
an unexpected new feature is video to video, and this allows you to transform an existing video into another style with a text prompt. This is something we've seen previously in early versions of Runway Gen 1, Kyber, and Pika seems to have the most polish on their video to video model, though I wouldn't put it past Runway to update Gen 1 soon in a competition with them. maybe the most valuable to content creators is the ability to use AI to manipulate aspect ratios. So Pika's aware most content creators don't just want it widescreen. They also want to be able to put it in formats for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. So they've built in a feature that can use generative AI to help expand the canvas of a video and flawlessly fill in the unused space so the video looks great in any format. They've also added generative fill editing tools so you can replace individual objects in a scene just based on a prompt. So you can see it's still a little bit blurry, but this is very early stage, and soon we're going to have amazing new implications for product advertisements in particular. If you're in the business of entertainment, you're probably most looking forward to the high quality of CGI animation that we're seeing. And this is the first time for sure that we've seen anything like this for text to video that could be passed off potentially as work from Pixar or DreamWorks to the untrained eye. So it's edging close to the quality level that Pixar's Renderman software gets to, where it has nuanced facial expressions, lifelike lighting, and celebrities that look easily identifiable. And finally, a big quality of life update. Pika is allowing users to extend clip length beyond 3 seconds. The mechanics of this aren't 100% clear yet, but it looks as though it's just going to operate similar to Runway, where you do an initial generation and extend that clip. If you want to sign up for Pika Labs, you can do so at Pika.
Okay, so I thought that was just interesting because, you know, they kind of gave just a quick overview of what's coming in Pika. Now, these, like everything, like Gemini yesterday being announced and everything else. I mean, Carlo, you were saying this in the AI exchange. We always tend to get a little bit of this. Matt Wolf talks about this on his channel too. Very curated, selected, best of the best. I mean, I'm not mad at anybody, any business for doing that, but it is important to know that that is probably what we're seeing. So when you see these, like exactly like Gemini's yesterday, okay, is that what I can do once I get access to all this Gemini Ultra next year? Or did you pick the best of the best and this is the only time it ever recognized the blue duck in the middle of the ocean on a map, right? Which if you know what that is from yesterday, from the big announcements of Gemini. So with Pika, is this like, I mean, when you look at that Pixar-esque animation, I mean, it's really, really impressive. But what are we looking at? Or are we looking at an uppaid version like we see with like we see with HeyGen, where it's like, hey, you can do this for a certain price, but if you want the good stuff, it's $75, it's whatever it is. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't. What's your guys' take on it? Do you think this is as good as what we're seeing in the previews, or is this cherry picked a little bit?
It's definitely cherry picked. Yeah, there's 100%. But that isn't necessarily a totally bad thing. I think that it means that whoever created it for them, or through their team, knows what they're doing. Right. Sure. So they're putting in the proper time and everything like that. So it just like anything else, you've got to understand how to use it and experiment it with it and things like that. I think it's a great bar to try to achieve. I think it'll be a huge success for them if the barrier is low to achieve that bar, but we won't see that until people get into it. Right. It's 100% cherry pick, but it's great inspiration.
Yeah. So let me go back to the sort of the main theme of this show, which is image to video, image to motion in a video sequence. And I just want to say that there's, in my mind anyway, there's 3 different classes of these advances in video. One is text to video, including text to multiple scene videos, right? Where it's making transitions across different conceived images and videos that are created from your text prompts. So you lay out a series of scenes and does that. Then there's image to video, which is really what we're talking about here. Is take a still image, which most people have access to, but you also now with smartphones have access to video. Right. And so you can take video. So there's video to video. And what you didn't see if you're listening to this, when Brian showed the Pika demo, one of the most impressive pieces of that was a standard video. And then you could click and change it to an animation of that, for example. And it was doing it in real time. That's the cherry picking aspect of it. Right. Yeah. That probably took some, serious work behind the scenes to get that to actually happen. But the power is there in the AI to do that kind of thing, video to video. And then you could add text to adjust the video that you've taken from a video input. Like start with a video, or now let's go back to start with an image. And I'm really interested in, the ability to really create a tremendous animation of a still image in a video sequence that you can then post to various social media or used in other applications in business. And so I know nothing about those things, but you guys are the masters. Go for it.
Like, so Brian,
So,
I was
here's a
thinking
good
either
example
you
of
would
that.
do it or I was going to do one in Runway. So yeah,
This is decoherence. No, not decoherence. Decohere. I always say ints at the end of it, but decohere.ai using the stable model. So this is decohere.ai. And like, this is one of the thumbnails we created for the show. And I love that you can, when you create these, you can tell it like how much or how little motion you want. Now, I will say this is a pretty good one. This is exactly what I would want for something like a LinkedIn post. It's eye-catching. It's like got movement and light. So to me, I mean, I did LinkedIn strategy for like 2 years and taught it and ran other people's accounts and did all the ghostwriting and all that stuff. And I will tell you, something like this is a huge benefit if you're putting out really good copy, really good LinkedIn posts, and you're trying to just add to it a bit. This is a great way to do it. Here's another one we did.
Wait, before you go on, narration by Beth, please, for the people who are listening.
Yeah. So what we were looking at was basically an image of a Polaroid, one being held by two hands. One is a robot hand, one is a human hand, and it's in front of a motion kind of scene of a city, and the motion has been animated. So the front part is still, but the motion lines are motioning. All right, Brian,
and like in
what's
this
this
example, it's more of a pan, right? Like people aren't necessarily moving. It's just more of a pan from right to left. And I'm not really necessarily telling you this is the model deciding, but then we can look at ones like this one that don't work. Now, in this particular case, we have a zoom in. It's a person putting a letter in a mailbox, but it morphs and basically removes the arm completely of the guy who's
Off
putting
the
yeah. And so it doesn't work here. And there's a couple other examples of that not working. This one's pretty awful as well, where it's again one of our it's one of our thumbnails that we use. It's supposed to be Cliff Clavin as a robot drinking a beer, sitting in a bar, knowing all things. And I can't explain this, but he just kind of disappears and comes back. He looks like something out of the show Loki, if you know what that is. The way he sort of time shifts and travels. That's what this reminds me of. Is he just kind of like morphs and comes back again. And I'll just show one other one real quick here because I know this is one of my favorites as well. More of a pan, but I thought this did a really good job on this one. This nice. Is of a robot in a lab. It's got a lot of workers around it, and it did not mess up the workers.
Rocket.
It does a really nice pan from right to left, as if you were in the shop around sort of this robot. And I really like this one. Probably one of my favorites here. So this is, I'll stop real quick because I know you have other ones to share. Oh, you know what? One last one really quick, because this one was done not from image to image, but just since we're in here, this was done from text to image. I said my prompt was a man who continuously gets knocked over by the waves standing on a beach. Now, that's not exactly what I got, but it is really cool. And I could see also the way I look at all of these is I have a story to tell. I have something I want to share. Let me stop sharing here. I have something I want to share. I have a thought. I have an idea. And, you know, so much of LinkedIn, not just LinkedIn, but is storytelling. How am I going to get this across, but make it memorable? So we joke all the time on here, but here comes a firefighter story. Not that I have one for this. The reason I do that, though, is because they're sticky. Firefighter stories are sticky. And so I might have a business idea that I want to get across, or Andy, you as a CXO might have a business thought or idea or a leadership idea that you want to share with your audience, your growing audience on LinkedIn. But you want to do it in a way where that story is sticky. So you might attach it to something fun, an interesting idea, a failure. Failures are very sticky. But then you might want to go that one extra step and you say, okay, if all sort of text posts on LinkedIn are a bit commoditized, meaning now you, me, Andy, anybody on this panel, the five of us, could all, before the end of this show, produce, let's say 30 prompts. And we're going to talk about that in a future show with SEO and where that sort of nets out. But let's assume we can all do it. Well, now if we can all do it and it takes very little time, how does Andy or anybody else stand out? And so I see this as a huge value add if you want to stand out on a social media platform like LinkedIn. If you want to stand out, Use tools like this where you can quickly go into, by the way, all these images, except for the one from text that was done in the program, are DALL-E 3 images. So I used my ChatGPT account for $20 a month that I'm already paying for all the other reasons I have it. I created these thumbnail images, then went to Decohere.ai, didn't pay any money, added animation to it, quickly downloaded it. Yeah, it's got their stamp on the bottom of it. It is stamped by them, but I don't care because all I needed to do is enhance my post on LinkedIn. So it's a huge value add.
Nice.
I think everybody should be doing this. And I highly recommend it, if you're not. Okay, that's enough for me. Go ahead, Carl. What do you got?
Oh, you know what? Before I show stuff, like here's a quick pushback, and I want to know your thoughts on this. If what you just showed, Brian, and quick demo here, what with so many people being able to do this, I feel a pendulum's gonna swing where everyone will do this, and you can kind of recognize it right now, like what is generated. Are we going to get fatigue, or is there going to be fatigue of all these things that kind of look like AI generated art?
I'm going to say no to that. My pushback is no. If just like a good post, we could all write hundreds of LinkedIn posts today that are okay, right? The way to stand out in the future, from now forward in the world of AI is you have to have damn good stories, good hooks like you always have, but you've got to stand out with your copy. I copied the other day that said, I almost died in this fire. That was the first line of the post. Mm-hmm. That was intentional, right? I need something like that to hook. Now I had still images, but if I had wanted to, I could have obviously created something like I just showed. I don't think there'll be fatigue yet. I think if you're listening to this show and you're looking for ways to build your personal brand today, and I'll say for the next 4 to 6 months, I'll have 4 months. Okay. You want to stand out today. You want to have a competitive advantage today. Do this stuff. Will everybody else catch up? Will everybody be doing it? Will it be built in as a feature inside LinkedIn in 2024? I don't know. But if you want to stand out today, go do this because there's no fatigue yet. We're on the very, very front of this curve. And so there's a lot of people who could take full advantage of this. And I don't know, maybe everybody will be doing it in months to come, but that's not to me, I guess the way I would say is that's not a concern of mine right this second.
This is just the same thing that we've seen over and over again, right? So if you're doing something because now you can do what everybody else is doing, that's not going to benefit you because everybody else is doing it.
Right. It's
this is not dramatically different from that point where like everyone could animate a GIF. Right. And so then you just saw like tons and tons of like, no. And my hands are blinking because that's what those animated GIFs look like or new. And yes, we started to tune those out. But animated GIFs are still a thing when it's a screenshot that's really interesting, showing you like where to click or whatever. So as long as you're doing it well,
valuable because it says a lot in a little. Right? It has a lot of impact in a few words, and sometimes they're not always moving, but sometimes like an animated GIF, like you said, can be really, really impactful. If I take that and I pair that with a really good story that has a really good message, again, going back and just using Andy as an example, and Andy wants to share this leadership message because you have so much experience in that area. And you're like, look, I just want to impart what I know. I'm not trying to run a business, and I just want to impart what I know back to my audience and give back. This is a great way to add that extra element and really, really make that point hit home. Because what I do, and I'm not saying this is what everybody should do, but what I do is I don't try to make an image exactly of the thing that I'm talking about. I try to make an image that's visually appealing that conveys the thing I'm trying to talk about. So I might show somebody putting a hand in a mailbox, but my post isn't about mail. It's about connecting with a loved one. It's about whatever the bigger picture idea is. My image is just there to add to the story. And that over time will absolutely, guys, I've been doing this. I'm not telling you guys this, for anybody listening. I have been doing personal brand strategy for top level CXOs for years. I have run their accounts, logged in as them and run their accounts. And what I will tell you is this is a surefire way to build your personal brand in 2024. Other people are going to catch up, but right now it still takes a few pieces, a few steps, and you can stand out for as long as that lasts. All right, Carl, you want me to share your screen?
Sure. Okay,
right.
now Brian showed you work-related fun stuff. I'm showing you stupid stuff because I just wanted to animate memes. That's literally what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
I love
I
these.
animated this meme, and then I animated the crying Jordan meme. That's literally what I was using it for. Really dumb things.
I think these are also super valuable.
Yeah. And then there was a thing that we did, and then the motion brush, you can do that. So like it, and when we talk about we can, if we want to generate video, we can go text to video, and then I'm gonna.
So will you describe what you're showing, Carl?
So this is Runway ML, and what I'm gonna do now is go with you on. I'm gonna select a image. Actually, no, I want to do that meme again. Let's go. Let's do this one again, and then we're just gonna go.
So it's a little girl.
The popular meme of the girl looking at the fire, like she's got a like mischievous look, and then the house is burning down behind her as if she did it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a
So
still image, like we're starting with a still image
Still
that you could grab from anywhere.
And then with this brush, I can just brush what I want to motion. So I want to motion the fire.
And they even tell you on there, you don't have to be super accurate. And if you're watching this, you can see Carl is doing a very like quick brush mask.
Yeah, he's painting over it. What appears on the screen is a purple overlay on the parts he wants to have moving.
And then it's like, where do we want to move? Horizontal or vertical? I would say horizontal, going this way.
And what's the third one? What is it?
Proximity.
Proximity.
Yeah.
So zoom.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really want it to zoom, but that's okay. You can do that. And then we just generate, and that's literally it. Now, if I wanted to make it a little different, then you'd want to add a couple things in. Although I did want to, while this is generating, I did want to touch on back to the demos of Pika, of decoherence. I feel that one, it seems to match more of what the demo is versus, and even what Google provided yesterday, right? So one of the things I know, like when you're creating a demo for your team, you obviously want to make sure that the demo works. So there was a demo of an AI tool that we used, and 70% of the time it didn't work, but 30% of the time it did. Well, what do you think the demo was about?
Right.
30% of the time. And, everyone was blown away and be like, oh yeah, can you implement this in 4 weeks? And we're like, we barely got the 30%. And we're like, lucky we got that in the demo, right? So I can just imagine when you look at Pika, you're like, but the same thing happened when you saw Wonder Studios, when I was, oh, that's amazing. But then when you actually use it, you're like, yes, but there's always a yes, but to it. And I feel like whenever people are, whenever people like look at these demos and then you get a flood of AI creators, this is going to kill, destroy, whatever the term is, overtake, leap, whatever. And then you get a whole run up of all these people. Oh, but isn't it better than? I'm like, have you actually used it? Like, have you done anything with it? I think that's like the danger. That's where people get annoyed with the hype, because it's just that over and over and over and over again. Anyway, so remember that we brushed this and we brushed Horizon. So let's see what happens.
Oh, that's not what I expected at all.
Neither did I. I was thinking
that's not it. So the earlier effort that you did, Carl, actually showed the flames moving upward, which I think by saying move this horizontally, the whole piece that you painted is now kind of shifting off to the left in the image.
So and she is kind of squinting as it goes. So her eyes are moving, but it's almost like a weird smear to the left or something like that.
The horizontal is increasing her smile.
Right.
which goes with the
Yes.
squinting of the
I think
eyes.
so.
Mhm.
So-
And he didn't brush or smile. So this is an example of like
Yeah.
its own internal coherence of kind of understanding what needs to happen around it. But yes, this is a trippy, interesting thing.
I think
It's
it's
a great iteration, and now we can go back and try vertical,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
maybe
You gotta
only
keep going.
select the fire and those kinds of things.
But
And
do you
that's it,
see-
you know.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make a point. Like for Pika, if you think about how long it took just to do the 4 seconds. So
Right.
if they're giving you the demo, how many hours they would have done to generate, regenerate to get the correct, exactly what they're looking for. So if you think you can just do, I think it's inferred that you can type something and it'll look like that and get exactly what you want, but it won't, right? It just
Yeah.
Right.
it's gonna take a long
Here's a
time.
Runway ML one I did of another one I'm using just again using our thumbnails. But this is a great idea of where I didn't ask for a lot. I was like, oh, this is supposed to look a bit like a robot in a Jack in the Box, and it never did paint the wind up handle. That was a DALL-E 3 thing I finally gave up on. But all I did was just brush over in purple the hand, the robot, and the lid. And if you really look at it, you can see, no, is it really lining up with the hinges? Is it real life look? I mean, it's a cartoon as it is, but it's just enough that what I would probably do is just put this on a boomerang, like an Adobe Express, and then just run it back to front. Like maybe this is 4 seconds, so maybe I would make it 30 seconds in a boomerang. So now he's just going down and up in the box. And that's what I would use for if it was a LinkedIn post, that's what I would use for the LinkedIn post. Now that still took doing the DALL-E post. It took several iterations to get even this. And I kind of gave up and I was like, all right, that's as good as I'm going to do because I can't do more. It would take me forever to do more. Then I had to go put it into, in this case, it was Runway ML. And it did work the first time, but there was still the processing time. And truthfully, if I wanted it to be right, I'm going to probably bring it over to like a free tool, like an Adobe Express, and do what I talked about, doing like back to front, just to duplicate it on a timeline. And then that download would be my last. So that kind of brings me back to like, this is not a snap your fingers and done, which is why I don't believe that it's simply going to be everywhere all right away, because it does take a little extra effort. But like we're talking about 5 minutes extra effort between all 3 platforms. Like it's not a lot, but you're still going to have to lift that finger to be different. And that's the difference.
Make the effort.
And he's got
I have
some.
a
Here we
couple
go.
of points. One is the reason it's important to add motion is that our visual system is designed to detect and attend to something that's moving. Okay, so just even a slight addition of motion with this tool like Motion Brush in Runway ML actually increases the engagement of the user's attention dramatically.
Yeah.
Now the question is, can you actually present that in an eye-catching way on like LinkedIn, for example? Does LinkedIn automatically start a video or GIF? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You have to actually click on it to do it. So
Nope.
that
It
it's not
automatically
going to
will.
work that way, but it does provide a little more visual interest. The second point I wanted to quickly make is that all of these video and image transformation generators, they're very, let's call them environmentally insensitive. These are the ones that cost the most in compute, and there's the people who are worried about the energy consumption of AI, they're going to be pointing fingers at these kinds of tools, and that suggests that in the longer term these tools are going to be relatively expensive, not free. But to do a small amount of motion addition to a still image, really, really cool. And we're running close to out of time, so I wanted to mention one thing. We were talking at the top of the show about taking an image and adding motion to that image. I wanted to reference something that Matt Wolf talked about in his coverage of video tools, and that's a tool called Seine, spelled like the river that flows through Paris. And what it does is it gives you 2 images, or you give it 2 images, and it will then do a morph between those 2, a video morph between 2 scenes. And that is a very cool effect that goes beyond the simple motion brush addition to a single image. And it was quite impressive, the quality of that transformation from one scene to the next.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I was gonna say real quick, Jimmy, like what other tools do we have? I mean, I can show one from Kyber, but I know, Jimmy, you may have had some as well that maybe we can show. Do you have any other examples you wanted to show?
Yeah, I can pull up sort of what you've been doing. Let me see here. I can pull up what I did in Runway with Motion Brush for one of our thumbnails as well.
Mhm.
And this highlights a little more of the selectiveness. So you can see that I applied the motion just on the data screens.
Yeah.
So we
I
can
like
see
that.
like the data is moving, vertical and things like that. And we've got a little movement on some of the background characters, but the foreground doesn't move at all. So I think if anything, that shows how selective you can be with the motion brush from Runway.
Right.
then,
And this
look,
is
that's
our
just creativity.
SWOT analysis thumbnail. And so it's
Yeah.
people at a desk, and then the walls are filled with data screens, and that's what Junmi has animated. So the data screens shift.
And what I was going to say is great about that is that when you start to understand the power of how to use these, I think that was a great example. Now my brain immediately goes like, oh, okay, what would be, maybe I think about it reverse. Oh, you know what? That's great, Jimmy. I could stand somebody on a street corner facing inside a window of like a business window, picture window with the old school television screens. That's a great visual, perhaps, for something I want to convey. And I may actually work myself backwards because you just showed me, hey, I can make the person stand still and make the screens flicker or do something like that, right? And now I can just animate what's on the screens. That's really powerful. Okay, great. That's a great visual image. What would that be a visual image of? What's something that would work with as far as the story? And I may actually come back to what I want to share after creating the perfect visual image, because sometimes that's just creativity for me, at least. That's the direction it'll flow. Oh, this is a really great idea. What could I do that would pair well with it? So it doesn't necessarily have to be the text and then let me find the image to video. It can very much be, oh my God, I actually created something that's visually really, really appealing. What great text could I add to that for copy that would work well and pair well together? So I think that was awesome. I wouldn't have even thought of that. That's a great way to do it.
And what we are looking at in all of this stuff is basically a single layer. But we know that the ways that images and video get built in, like as things start to progress, is that you're going to be able to animate one layer and leave the second layer still. So in that context, if you blocked out where that TV screen was, then you could animate that kind of over and over and have a set screen that then you that was reproducible basically with different kinds of content.
Yeah, that's a cool idea for a recurrent show like the Daily AI Show. You might have a standard thing that actually shows the current topic in an animated component of that screen.
Yeah, well, I can't wait till next year when we do a Pixar version of all of us, all seven.
Well, there you go. A live Pixar styling of us, right? Yeah, no, that.
Although it's going to say I'm bald, and I'm gonna get mad at it,
Well, one thing I wanted to highlight though, before we wrap up, is what we're seeing with introductions of animation to image to video and video to video and things like that is the ability to have more control over each element, like Beth was saying, the different layers and things like that. And I think that's kind of what creatives are really looking for in terms of telling their narrative, right? Right now, you're seeing individual scenes being put together in music video style or avant-garde, experimental type of film and video and storytelling. But as soon as we can get more and more control of how the image moves and looks and things like that, that's when we'll really see these tools be adopted into the creative process, especially for film and things like that. So I think that's what the key takeaway for me especially for like Runway's motion brush, is to have more control about different elements within your image or video.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and like they always, like Matt says, and everybody else we've said many times, is the worst it'll ever be, right? So look at where it's come from just in this year, and like again, when I look back,
Hell, just in this month.
Well, this month too, yeah. Look, I mean, in terms of like really easy, like I love the paint and mask brush. What I would say to people is like, go check out Deco here, because like it's kind of nice. Your only filter really on there is how much or how little movement you want. You can see the ones I share for those who are able to watch this. Like they're not all winners, right? But you could go back to an image that were like, ooh, that's not what I wanted, and move that movement filter, that bar down to the left, almost to like just barely. You might actually, I might have gotten the robot with the mailman to actually look kind of cool. I just may have had that one slider a little too far to the right with too much movement or whatever. But super easy. If you're just dipping your toe into this and you're like, I don't know, this looks kind of cool, I would say that's probably like a two-step would be like a DALL-E or a Midjourney. Get that image that you want to use, or Adobe Express or Canva. I mean, there's so many now that'll create an image for you from text, and then take it to a Deco here and try it. If you want to try something a little bit more advanced, try Stability, because you can paint and mask and do different things as Carl showed. And I think that's really helpful as well. The last one I'll bring up, because I know we're out of time, but I'm just going to like literally just show it, is this company. No, that's not it. Why isn't it showing Kyber? 1 second. Let me pull up Kyber super quick. But it's 2 seconds.
Do you remember Kyber was like one of the first ones?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And honestly,
I know it was cool then, but it's like, yeah, but we've moved on. we've moved farther on, and you're kind of doing the same thing. So like, get with it.
This is our image of ChatGPT turning 1, and it was a baby robot celebrating its first birthday. By far my favorite DALL-E picture that I've created. And you can see it's like, it doesn't show here what it was. Well, it does. Illustration, glow, soft light, sketch, paint strokes. It's very like artsy. It's very creative. And I'm not saying there's still a place for something like this. Is it like, are you going to think it's actually the same robot? What it did though, is it used my image as a starting point. It's similar enough, and then went on to create its own thing. And if we just look at another one, this was the Thanksgiving one, which was, well, at the time it was a robot sitting at the front of the table. And now you can see that it's sort of got this like movement of people sitting around a Thanksgiving table. The guy at the front where the robot used to be is now wearing
the turkey's alive now. The turkey's living.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's still a place for it, but I'm kind of with you, Carl. I kind of look at Kyber and I thought, like, I don't know. It doesn't look like it would be the tool that I personally would go to. But if you're looking for something very artsy, I think it definitely has a place in the canon of these different tools.
Yes.
Yeah. To Junmi's point about the level of control you have over elements in the image, it seems like the two demonstrations you just provided for Kyber, it was doing motion application across the entire image in its own way. Yep. Is it missing that key element?
If I go to create video, and I go to like motion, just doing it like you just start writing a prompt. It's like it's got a 2-part prompt, which is like, what do you want to create, and in the style of, and it gives you examples like, do you want a dragon's lair in the style of a festive storybook?
So it's a little too blunt. It's a little too blunt compared to the new tools that provide much more articulate manipulation of the image.
Yeah, if you want artsy, there are better tools.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Well, listen, I would say my wrap up of this is that all your tools, your Canva, your Adobe Express, your DALL-E, I think in ChatGPT will all in 2024 have this feature. You will be able to minimally animate still images in all of these tools. These are just the ones that are out there now, but I don't see any reason based on everything we've seen in 2023 why these won't just be built-in tools on some of the other tools we're already using, like the Adobes and the ChatGPT. Do you guys see it any differently?
No. Canva can sort of animate now, and it's all going to get better.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, listen, we'll wrap it up there.
Will be a tool will will absorb that ability or create an ability as a spinoff. And that's exactly what Canva does. It takes the most popular things that people want to do every day and then turns it into a more user-friendly version.
Yeah, I agree. They're great at that. They have a great user interface on all that. Okay, listen, tomorrow, last day of the week, we have on Friday, our Aloha Friday, we have introducing Ego Exo 4D, which is from Meta. It's a foundational data set for research on video learning and multimodal perception. So if that sounds fun to you, I actually just Googled that to bring it up so I could say that. And I was happy to see, maybe it's keyed towards me, but I was happy to see that our upcoming YouTube video live for tomorrow is the #1 search result on Google for Ego Exo 4D. So I'll take it. I'll say that everybody is seeing that, and maybe we'll have a lot of people tuning in for that tomorrow. So that's it. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Aloha.
Bye.